For the first time in 24 years, the people of Pennsylvania voted Republican. This county, Fulton, heavily rural, elderly and white, went a particularly solid red. 84% voted Trump. They took a gamble he'd deliver what he promised. Healthcare is his first big test.
After he came along and he started making sense about a lot of things that I've been thinking about for years and years, the changes that have to be done, I decided to change my politics from Democrat to Republican.
Trumpcare is moving in the right direction. I believe it will.
Amen to that.
Yeah, I think it's going to be a lot better than Obamacare.
What was wrong with Obamacare?
Well, that's saying it was too high. A lot of people couldn't afford it, the way I understand it.
And Trumpcare says what to you?
It's supposed to come down. It's supposed to.
Now, a key pledge on the campaign trail in places like this was that promise to repeal Obamacare, the healthcare program that encouraged, some would say forced, millions of Americans to buy insurance, and that expanded Medicaid, free insurance for the most vulnerable through government subsidies.
Next is an executive order minimizing the economic burden of the Patient Protection and Affordable Care Act.
Republicans have long argued it was too costly for government and premiums were too high for patients. It was repealed on day one by executive order, but this month the president produced his own plan. We came to the Fulton Medical Center to see what they make of it. Just a decade old, it puts diagnosis, surgery, emergency services and an elderly care home all under one roof. Margaret Black has spent 3 months here. Do you know what the cost will be to you?
Not completely. I won't be able to. Well, I know I had 3 trips to Pittsburgh in the ambulance, so you figure that out. What's that, about $3,000 a trip? Yeah. 3,300 or something. I don't know what they did say, but it's going to be good.
Your work pays for your insurance. So
I pay part and my work pays part.
So that's a big help to you, right?
Oh yeah, definitely.
And if that was taken away, if your employer didn't have to provide insurance?
I would lose everything. I mean, I wouldn't have the money to pay it.
Under Trump's plan, employers would no longer be held responsible for their workers' insurance. Some believe that change is badly needed.
I think that it needs to be revamped. I think it needs to be changed. Companies that offer health care like my husband's, which we're fortunate for, that's a great thing. But there's companies out there that can't afford to pay for health care for their employees. They're going to end up shutting their doors, and that's going to hurt our economy even more.
Broadly, this plan would cost the government and big business less. Let's show you how that could look in practice. Under Obamacare, Medicaid was expanded in the majority of states. Large employers were obliged to provide insurance to their workers. Health insurance became mandatory, with fines for those who didn't enroll, and there was a cap on the difference insurance providers could charge older people. Under Trumpcare, they intend to cut Medicaid expansion and stop any more states taking it up. They will free employers of the obligation to insure their workers. They'll stop insurance being mandatory, but say those who go 2 months without it may face higher policies. They'll use tax credits to help people buy it, and they'll make major cuts to women's health programs, including Planned Parenthood. The moment the presidential plan emerged, it appeared he'd pulled off something of a coup, infuriating both those on the left of his party, worried that it would leave many Americans unprotected, and those on the right, who called it Obama light, hated the fact he hadn't got rid of it completely. Then this emerged. The nonpartisan Congressional Budget Office, think along the lines of our OBR, predicted that 24 million more Americans would be uninsured by the next decade if the proposals went through. Older, poorer people would be worst hit. I asked the head of emergency services, Dr. Douglas Stern, what he makes of those numbers.
I don't think that is an exaggeration. I think we could have more uninsured patients, and that's going to push them towards an expensive health care, the emergency department. Because if someone's uninsured, they're going to wait until they have an acute problem. And then once they have that acute problem, they're going to go into the system through the emergency department. And unfortunately, that's the highest cost of healthcare delivery.
So, Dr. Stone, from what you're saying, this is a community that can ill afford to pay for this healthcare.
We have some patients that are on a fixed income, and usually it's the retired group, and they're on a fixed income. They don't have the opportunity to make any more money, and they choose between taking their blood pressure medication, their insulin, or buying food.
This is President Trump's first real legislative test since coming to office. His party holds a majority in the chamber, but needs 216 votes to win. As things stand, the rump of conservatives, known as the Freedom House Caucus, believe they hold enough votes to block it.
I know I've talked to a lot of people that currently would vote no. So there's a pretty persuasive case made by the leadership and the president. But
where are you standing?
Currently, I would vote no. I think there's a lot of people that have concerns that we don't do enough on cost.
You must have done the maths. Do you think there's enough to sink the bill?
Yeah, right now we don't have the votes to pass the bill. Yeah.
And you're pleased with that?
Well, no, I want to get to yes, but I want the Trump presidency to be a success, right? And so everybody agrees, right? The right-wing think tanks, the liberal think tanks, both agree the architecture and structure of Obamacare remains. That's not debatable.
So, Mr. President, did you make a persuasive case in what you...
The president himself went to Capitol Hill this morning to lobby for the bill in his own inimitable style, telling Republican congressmen they risked losing their seats if they didn't vote it through.
Tremendous health care plan, that's what we have, and they're going to be adjustments made, but I think we'll get the vote on Thursday. You say that you're always going to...
Affordable care, American health, no one even knows what it's called, but just like Hillary Care of the 1990s or Obamacare now, or who knows, perhaps Trumpcare or even Ryan Care next, the sticking of a name on the bill is not about pride or posterity. It's an attempt to affix political blame for if it all goes wrong. And what of Fulton and its 84% who stood so solid behind Trump? Are they watching the machinations on the Hill, the swamp, as Trump used to call it? They'll give him the benefit of the doubt for now. They need to see their president win. Whether they'll like it if he does is perhaps a bigger question for another day.